dialed in
to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something
you can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use
smarts of these stuff.
because they know the brews.
And they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, because shit's not funny.
And save yourself some
Beer money. Bucks
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Bucks
and brews.
brews.
Bucks and Brews.
Welcome back to Bucks and Pops.
Bucks and Pops and Pennies?
Something. I don't know. We're failing this
Bucks
week,
and
Nick.
drinks.
You failed because what did you forget?
I forgot my beer. The number one most important, like literally all I have to do is 2 parts of this whole entire podcast.
Yeah. Show up
Bucks, brews. And
and you failed.
say, don't even have that.
I have nothing to drink because I have a UTI. So the less I have to go to the bathroom right now, the happier I am. So I'm drinking absolutely fucking nothing.
Well, you know, I went to lunch real quick, just up the road, up in Wayland.
Okay.
And then I headed back and they were doing the wet pavement thing. They were like painting lines. And then they had another part closed down. And I was like, I got off 100th Street and had to come around that way. I was like, how the heck did I literally just end up with like a 4-hour delay trying to get 3 miles?
Right.
So then, of course, I didn't remember to, but I had a beer at lunch. So I had that going for me. I started Bucks. I even said it when I ordered. I was like, oh, I got to start Bucks and Brews early. I was like, here's my beer.
There you go. And then now you're drinking Coke.
Coca-Cola. Wow, thanks.
It's not made with cocaine anymore, so you can't even join your beer trivia guy, buddy.
Oh, that sucks.
It does. Guest day.
Yes, Day.
We have one of my colleagues,
Yeah.
Karen Meerman, and her husband Brett, and they're going to talk about their bartending service company, Tap a Few.
Which, funny story.
Yeah, let me have it.
I've met them before
I know.
at events. And, you know, you've talked about your softball coach, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we have another, and constantly keep talking about them. And then all of a sudden I see a photo and I was like, oh my gosh, I know them. They've served me alcohol. Most people could actually probably say that in this world. They've served me alcohol.
Really, truly.
But yeah, really, I say, you guys have been at a couple events that I've been to. So it's really fun to have you on.
Are they good at it?
I never had a problem with any of the drinks they've poured.
There you go.
Yep.
That's a rounding endorsement, because if Nick had a problem, he would have said it loud and clear.
Fact.
Karen, Brett, thanks for joining us. Are you guys drinking anything?
I am actually zero sugar A&W root beer today. So
Oh, there you go. Welcome to the
not
Pop
really
Club.
any brews, but I guess root beer.
Yeah, there you go.
Brett?
And I'm drinking nothing right now. I just got off football, so just pounded a Gatorade and just here.
Man, wow,
Brett's a man after your own heart.
yeah.
His favorite beer? Miller High Life.
That's right.
Close. Bush Light.
Bush latte,
Sorry,
baby.
Bush Light
Bush
better, I
Latte.
guess.
You know what? My last few episodes on here have all been Bush latte peach.
Have you tried the
Ooh.
peach, Brett?
Oh, just had it on Saturday. If
It's-
you like peach, it's the way to go.
That's what I'm saying.
No. There are much better peach ways to go because it's still too Bush Lighty,
No, Bush.
but it does have an excellent peach flavor.
I enjoyed all 30 of them.
You didn't have 30 of them. You bought 30 of them.
I had most of the 30.
Most of the, because I had one.
Yeah, I think I gave away 4.
Okay, so you enjoyed all 26.
My holiday 26 pack.
There you go.
So,
So tell us little bit about the business, guys.
Yeah, so we've been in the business 7 years now, and we do mobile bartending service. So this occurs a lot when a venue, and this most notoriously with weddings, but when venues don't provide their own alcohol service. And so bride or grooms reach out to us, or just party goers reach out to us, and they want bartending services, and we provide that. We've been going strong. We do about 95 to 100 events a year.
Well,
And coincidentally, the event that we met Nick at was kind of a corporate event that they put on post-COVID to try to get everyone back together. Well, a little bit, there's a few events before COVID, but corporate events too throughout the year. But mainly most of our events, weddings. We do have some contracts with Grand Valley as well, so that's really fun to get in there and work sporting events for them. But yeah, really enjoy it. Year 7 already. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, I know Nick was telling me the other day, he goes, I didn't realize that was a thing, that places didn't have their own bartenders.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they have some exclusive contracts too. I mean, they're getting big.
Yeah. And then that's good. It's because you know, every year you do a New Year's Eve party for Ryan. And
Yep.
you know, we show up every once in a while to that. And one year we lit off fireworks sober, of course. Horrible idea.
Totally
you know,
sober.
midnight fireworks after you've been drinking for 4 hours. So, and that was a really cool. I don't like to dress up, so it's one of the reasons why it's hard for me to go. But you know, it's kind of more of a black tie affair. They want people to be formal, or you know, at least have a collared shirt.
Presentable.
Yeah,
Not
And you-
t-shirt.
So you know me, I'm a t-shirt
Sandals.
short kind of guy, right? That's how I'm gonna show up. But it's a really awesome event. And so, how did you guys start? Or how, like, why did you open the business? How did you start the business?
So a little bit into that, I went to college for business, have my undergrad and master's in business. So post college, I wasn't really getting into any business positions that I preferred, and I wanted to use my degree that I earned towards something business. Long story short, we ended up working with a family friend who needed a bartender for the night, and she goes, "You guys would be really good at this. You should look into this." Well, we got our certification, we got our insurance, October of 2016, and then it kind of all took off from there. I'm kind of the person that does a lot of the communication. A lot of my strong suits are working one-on-one with people, and Brett does a lot of behind the scenes heavy lifting, lugging kegs into his
I
big
lift
tall
heavy things.
yeah big tall truck. So we kind of complement each other's weaknesses or strengths in that realm, which is great, but really enjoyable, and super happy that we started it.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And it's just a family friend. She reached out to us. She said, "Oh, you like drinking beer? How about you come serve it one night?" And we fell in love with it. And it just took a little bit of research figuring out what we needed to start the LLC and the insurance we needed. And that was kind of the biggest research and the biggest kind of hiccup in getting started, is knowing all of what we needed to get going. And then from then on, it's just a learning experience. And now we have all the equipment that we need to serve 5 events a day if we ever needed to.
really, that's the thing. And then, do you guys have employees?
We
so
do.
yes, we have about 10 staff that work for us pretty regularly. What's nice about our employee staff is
They're all family and friends. And so it's people that we know, that we trust, that we can send them off to a wedding and not question if they are going to know what they're doing. We're not going to have to question if they're going to deliver the money to us or anything like that. It's people we love and trust. In fact, that's when I bought my first Bush peach case, was to have them over. And after the wedding, we get to swap stories at the end of the night and talk about who had the craziest crowd.
There you go. Say now, one of the questions. So I've done what you guys do. Right, same kind of startup. Kid, all of his family and friends were at his wedding, and I knew him, but I didn't. You know, we weren't friends, and I wasn't invited. And I was like, dude, his family like to pour or make wine, and I was like, dude, we make it. He's like, oh, we can't find anybody that will, because I think I even gave him your guys' information. They're like, oh, we can't pour it because it's not legal. You know, it's not licensed wine. And I was like, I'll just go pour wine at your wedding for you, right? And then some, you know, of course, cocky ass parent, it was like, oh, you guys can't put a tip jar out here. You can't do this. And I'm like, it's a wedding. Okay, just enjoy yourself. Drink some more, lady. Here you go. Right? Like, so can you guys be tipped from people?
Great question. So it's funny. Recently, that's one of our biggest headaches and biggest foot down, to be able to tell people included in our service is a tip jar. Because of our services being so much more affordable than everyone else in the area, I would say we're a little bit more competitive now, but earlier on we were much more affordable, and we had to have a tip jar out to be able to compensate our employees for their hard work, I felt. But a lot of people, you know, we'll get 5 to 10 people a year that will say no tip jar. Well, then we say, okay, well then your other option would be $2 per person, you can tip us then.
Sure.
Because that's what we typically see is about $2 a person at a wedding, or, you know, if we're at a corporate event, we see $1.50 a person. So
That's really good. I still have a Canadian $20 bill from, because somebody thought it was really cool that they tipped me in Canadian money.
Money you can't
I was
use.
like, wow, thanks. Like, and it's still literally sitting at home, and like, and I've been to Canada since this
and
wedding,
never taken.
and I always forget to take it, like, because I was like, oh, I could just use it to go through the border,
Yeah.
right? No, fucking, it just sits there.
Yeah. Why would you?
So
That would be
question, was
smart.
that guy cheap tipping you 20 in Canadian? Like, is Canadian less than American? I forget.
It is.
It is, yeah, but like
Huh.
I think he's from Canada, and that's just what he had or whatever. $20. So I mean, I think it's worth like $18 in US, right? So
Oh, yeah.
or like $18.50. It's we're actually really close.
Yeah,
to
we
the
are
money.
close.
Yeah.
So you know, it was really nice of him, but it's just
Sure.
frustrating because I can't just go out and spend the stamp $20.
Some people are really offended by tip jars.
Yeah.
And they draw the connotation that if you have one, it's because you pay shitty.
Yeah.
That's not always what it is. You know, like we have one downstairs, and Dawn's had customers get pissed at her for it. And she's like, listen, we pay a decent salary, but we've had people that go, I want to give something extra. There it is. If you want to give it, great.
If you don't, leave it alone.
Right. Well, and if I'm going to, and I get that it's paid, and you don't have to tell me exactly your prices. I mean, I guess if I called, I'd get them. So feel free to share. But like, okay, what does a service like yours cost, and what does it include? Because I'm assuming you do just a beer, you do a beer liquor, you do a wine, and do you have a mixed drink? Like, tell me about your packages, what you have to offer.
Yeah, so actually we keep it super simple. We don't make it too complicated by making it different prices. We do a $300 flat rate per bartender, and it's 3 to 7 hours of service.
Oh, shit.
So if somebody wants us 3, somebody wants us 7, whatever. It includes setup and tear down. If we provide the alcohol, it's a little bit different. If they provide the alcohol, then it's just to show up and serve for us where we bring our equipment in. So it's pretty simple in that realm. And then we just work with people on what they want their menu to be: liquor, beer, wine, seltzer, 2 signature cocktails, beer, wine, you know, whatever they determine they want to be. Last week we had 6 events. Most of the events were full bar. A lot of people don't do beer, wine weddings anymore, especially post COVID. They want to party. They're ready to party. They're ready to get together.
Yeah, we are.
So it's fun.
So, and
I party with beer.
you had quickly mentioned two
Signature cocktails.
cocktails. Do you, I mean, do you allow other ones, or you guys strictly just try to keep it to 2?
Our recommendation is typically 2. We've done more than that. It just kind of gets crazy having more than that. You know, you think about your typical menu at a wedding. You walk up, there's typically 2 to 3 beer types, 2 to 3 wine types, typically 3 to 5 liquors, and then potentially a seltzer, now a champagne, all the mixers. So you add 2 signature cocktails into that menu, like a margarita and or a
Tom Collins, we just did
Yeah.
at a wedding, and
whatever you want to add into the list. When you add those things on there, it just gives people like 13 or 15 options when it could be 7 or 8 to get people through a line at a wedding. You know, we're not like your typical, I walk into the local sports bar and I get to order whatever I want. It's very simplified menu to be able to give people what they typically drink, but not everything they typically drink. So
Sure. I know. Say every time I go to your guys' events, I always want an old fashioned. You never make them for me, so forget you guys. I'm done with your shit. But you know, I say the whole point is when you go back to tipping. Like if I order an old fashioned, I know I'm taking a shit ton of your time, right? Like
Mhm.
to make one is just it, unless it's the pre-made mix thing. But like still, you're putting in your sugar, your simple syrup, your orange, your cherry. You're taking muddling it, taking all this time. Of course, I'm going to tip for your time because I just made everybody else wait. And usually, I'll buy the drink for the person behind me because you know, I'm like, hey, just make it 2 because we're already right here. But you know, it's a tipping for that. Yeah, you know, and I don't know. It took me a long time to not tip for every drink because there's times where it's like, hey, I need a Bud Light, and I'll chug it and turn around and get another one. I'm like, man, it took you 2 seconds to reach your hand into that bucket. I'm just going to give you the $1 versus the 2 that I normally would. So,
Mhm.
and it's different when it's a cash bar versus an open bar, and
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I But you about 7 times a year you get people that just don't want to tip, huh? Or don't want to tip.
Yeah,
Darren.
it's interesting. Again, like our pricing reflects us the allowance of having a tip jar out. So whenever I talk with people over the phone, give them our rates. I don't have rates posted anywhere. We don't have anything posted on our Instagram, on our Facebook. I don't have a website. I want to talk to the people, so call me and I'll talk to you. And so yeah, I guess with that, we'll get people here and there that will fight about it. And it's something that is really easy just to say, hey, this is included in our service, or you have this option.
Yep.
What do you decide? And a lot of people say, go ahead, have your tip jar out. Like if we were to get into Grand Rapids events, if we were to work for like a Meyer event or some other large corporation, we might consider something else. Like, because I know that at corporate events, they prefer not to have a tip jar out, is where our biggest fight is. Only because they are there to impress and to serve the guests, and they don't want the guests to feel obligated to throw money our way, which I get.
Yep.
But with that, a lot of companies say, okay, here's the tip that you owe us then based on your menu and what our service would be. So we would consider maybe doing something like that for a third option if needed for corporate events, but we haven't really gotten into the larger corporations yet at this point. So
You said, sorry, so for you guys, it's $300 per bartender. Do you have a minimum bartender amount of people?
so yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so roughly around every 75 to 100 people, we suggest at least one bartender. If we push over 100 people, it's just super hard to get through lines, especially like right after ceremonies, right after people just get there or whatever it may be. And so we just kind of use that as our numbers moving forward. A lot of people like to say, oh, I don't want to pay for an extra bartender. Can we cut it down? And usually we're just like, no, we need you to go up. We don't need our night to be miserable or your night to be miserable because we're slow on the job. So yeah, that's just kind of how we justify it to people, is saying you need this just for your sake and making your night easy along with ours.
And really our preference is always to, typically when you have a buddy with you, it's easier to say no to people. When you're working one-on-one, less than 100 people crowd, it's really tough to be able to say no and then stick with the no. For example, one of our specific rules is no shots. We have a lot of venues that don't allow us to pour shots. We have some places that do allow us, and when we go there, we'll allow it. But for the most part, a lot of people want shots at weddings, and it's just not the type of event, in our opinion. So we have that specifically written in our contract, unless the person who buys us wants to have that there. But it's just kind of interesting how all that unfolds. But
Yep. And I, the way I get around it is, if I want a shot of rum, I say, can I get a rum and Coke? No Coke. And they're gonna say, oh, do you want it on ice? And no, not with ice. And oh, we don't do shots. I'm not looking for a shot. I want to say
You
very
can't
specific.
just order like rum neat.
yeah, because here's what shots looks like when Nick comes up to the front of the line. I'd like a shot. Nick, we don't choose shots. Okay, then you order it your fancy way, and then you walk away from the bar and slowly sip or chug it and throw it away, right?
That's a fact.
Shots turn into, I got
Oh, yeah.
10 people at the bar, I'm lining up all these shots, and then everyone else wants shots.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
everyone else wants
You're just
shots.
pouring
It just
forever.
turns yeah, so it just doesn't turn out well.
And everybody gets wasted. So,
That might happen.
so now-
Shots.
okay, hiring you, and because I want to enjoy my event and not worry about Uncle Scotty getting all wasted, what is your responsibility as a bartender to stop people from drinking?
Yeah, so it's just kind of slowly weaning them off it. I think that's kind of the best way that we've seen it fit. Is usually, hey, go check out that dessert table, get an extra piece of cake, or hey, I'm just gonna pour this one a little light this time. There's been even sometimes where people at the wedding have been pregnant, but they're like, hey, we just don't need other people to know, and so we'll finish off like a vodka bottle or something, fill it halfway with water, and we pour their drinks like that. And sometimes it's just, oh, this person's getting a little out of hand. Maybe I just use that water in the vodka bottle, make it look like I'm pouring a strong one for them.
Sure.
And you know, sometimes you just have a conversation with them, and most people are willing to work with you and saying, you know what, you're probably right. If I drink a couple waters here, maybe I can come back, have a beer at the end of the night or something like that. But we found that's just been our best way of conversing with people. And you know, if they're not willing to do it, you just got to stand strong.
Yeah,
and be firm with your decision.
Our philosophy is if they can't go chug a water and come back or follow our instruction, then they don't deserve to drink. So we kind of keep it pretty simple. Hey, work with me on this, you know, and then all right, they worked with us on that. Let's do this. You know, there is our specific hard cutoffs where the person that paid for our services to be there, if they make a suggestion that they don't want that person being served anymore, you know, our response to them is, hey, listen, the person who asked us to be here tonight, they had asked that we no longer serve you. And that's a specific hard cutoff. But we are pretty generally nice about it for the most part. So
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
Drunk Dave and Drunk Nick might have an issue. Those two are really hard to rationalize with.
That's a fact. So I mean, and now you guys are responsible for setup. You said you're the heavy lifter with your huge lifted truck, and I assume that comes with you know, lifting a lot of kegs in there. So now you guys set up all the kegs, you bring all the liquor in. Are you guys supplying ice? Like what are you doing for that?
Yeah. So we actually 2 years ago purchased our own ice machine at our house. So we bag ice every week. And then we bring it with us. We've got 400 pounds out in the ice machine right now. We've got another 400 pounds in a chest freezer. So we bring our own ice. We bring our own coolers, keg coolers, everything needed. If we are bringing, we bring 100% of everything that we need. We go to the liquor store, we purchase everything. If we need extra stuff, we go get it. Whereas in the other instance, if they're bringing the alcohol or whatever it may be, they bring 100% of everything. If they run out of their signature drink of Moscow Mules, they run to the store and get more ginger beer or something like that.
Sure.
And that's just something that we've found over the years that's worked. In past years, we've been nice, we've been generous, and we're like, hey, you're running out. Let's volunteer ourselves to go get it. And it just turns into more of a headache of us leaving and not having things work out well. So yeah, we bring everything. We've got a trailer with our name all over it. So if you see us driving by, feel free to honk and try not to run me off the road.
Give us a nice little middle finger.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I'm going to ask this because I thought this was interesting, and Karen and I have had several conversations about it in the dugout, but not during softball games because that would piss Yost off. So if you listen to this, it's never been during a game. They'll never listen. So I call you up, Karen, ring. And, I'm like, all right, money's due Wednesday. What does that entail? So how can I pay? What do you accept? When am I screwed?
Are you talking about paying
She's
for our
thinking
services?
real hard here. I'm talking. Hey, I call you up. Here's my credit card.
Okay,
how can I pay you guys to for
Got
your
it.
service?
got it. So we
Gotcha.
only accept cash or credit card for 4%. We utilize the Square app. We were accepting several charges on Venmo prior to the tax new law that they adopted. Since then, we have not accepted very many payments on Venmo. So yeah, specifically just cash or card for 4%. If they're paying with a card, we accept the payment Sunday before the wedding. If they're paying cash, we accept payment day of.
You'll go all the way up to day of and
Mhm.
hope that they have your cash for service, huh? I mean, all right,
In the
have
7
you
years
had-
that we've served, only 2 instances we didn't have the money.
Quick, knock on wood.
let me see.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
kid.
and do they go open the envelope and start paying you out of the envelopes while people are watching?
So uncomfortable. That's
It
funny.
is.
It'd be fucking hilarious to me. Like,
No, but what's interesting is payment on spot. We always accept when we show up. Okay. And then we count it in front of them because that's also a discrepancy is, hey, I paid you X. You're only saying that I got this, you know, because we've had that argument before with people too. So yeah, we keep it very, hey, we get payment when we arrive. So we're not talking money when we're drunk or drinking.
Yep.
and then we can enjoy the rest of the night.
And
So checks are a no. Why?
Yep.
They are not. So we have gotten burned in the past.
Really?
We have. People suck, you know. So, you know, it's not people write a bad check. It's the fact that I can't, if I have a Friday event, I can't cash that check until Monday, and then I'm out and paying for their alcohol and everything that they need if that's the service they volunteer for. I like to pay all of my employees by Sunday evening for the weekend work too. So then I can't turn around that money and pay our employees. And I prefer just to use the money that we make from the wedding. So
now so you don't do certified checks either then, huh? So it's
we
not
do
about
not.
you just want the money to be able to clear. That's the biggest thing. Okay. Do you think that'll change? I mean, I guess I don't know. To me, like when not taking a certified check and you say, hey, I want to get it out, it just sounds like a cash flow issue. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful about it, but it just sounds like a cash flow issue where, hey, you want to pay all this. So you're doing a service and what you're getting is that's what you're paying versus, hey, having a petty fund or something around. Like, you know, like when I do rents for real estate, it's like, hey, I'm using last month's, like right now I have next payment sitting in my house ready, and then I take next month's and just re put that into the thing. So is there something, I guess, that will change in the future for that?
So in our opinion, no. You know, Brett's maybe more willing. I know you're saying no.
No. And like we use a Square app and we're okay with doing it. We just like seeing with just our employees going to certain events. It's nice for them to be paid the moment that they arrive, not have to worry to themselves, oh, did the money actually go through when I gave them the number or whatever it may be? When I scanned the card, did it go through? Because we're not there. And so that's kind of, in my mind, the biggest reason why we're going to probably stick with it in the future is keep that cash is king mentality.
Yeah, you know, just for an example, like this past weekend on Saturday, largest bar bill of 2023 so far, $2,300 in alcohol. So if I'm footing that bill and I don't collect payment from them until after, or waiting to cash their check till Monday, I am putting $2,300 in their name, waiting for their name to clear. And I don't feel like that's fair to us.
And
So
I guess I mean, I see it more because you kind of mentioned like doing a Meyer event or a corporate event, right? And
right.
I don't know. I mean, I think corporate people probably wouldn't mind the 4% fee type of a thing, but if I'm and I'm never going to pay you like on the spot. I'm probably going to try to get you. If it was my wedding, I don't want to pay you while I'm there. I don't want to think about anything else. I'm going to pay you the month ahead that I booked. I'm going to meet up with you one way. But so like for corporate events, I guess I would assume they'd want to write you a check. In my opinion, like, hey, we'll have you kind of booked. So
I can tell you with our corporate events, nobody's ever asked to write a check.
Really?
Ever.
Let's see.
They just give the credit card over.
Well, yeah. So everything. You guys have a fee though?
Yeah.
We don't add an added credit card fee on because our fees are so low.
Yeah.
But nowadays with businesses, it's easier for them just to hand over the corporate card than it is for them to sit there and worry about getting to their accounting department to cut a check.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 50-50 for us. We just served an event last Thursday that was a corporate event. Credit card payment, that was fine. So I said no checks earlier, it's cash or card. But for corporations, I understand that check is the only way. So for corporations, it's a little bit different where we're kind of footing the bill, but we have, you know, not the ability, but we have their word as a corporation that we're going to get payment from them. So I don't see the issue doing it that way as opposed to Joe Smo, you know, X person that I just met, you know, like, their names behind their check, if that makes sense. So,
and saying, no, that makes perfect sense. And again, doing everything last minute, I think, and you put a great point to that. Like, you don't want your employees to have to be responsible for the money and worry all night if you got paid. And I think that's great that you guys don't put that responsibility on them. Like, yeah, you have to collect it, but shouldn't be theirs, you know. So now what happens? You said it happened twice where you guys didn't have money when you showed up. How do you handle that?
Let's talk about fucking Pete for a minute. You ready to talk about fucking Pete?
Any bad guest ever at any wedding that we ever have, we just call him Pete because there was a Pete that we had a couple years ago, and still can't get over him.
Anyway,
Really? This is great.
yeah, so fucking Pete. To keep this story not too long, I'm just gonna say that he was supposed to provide cash payment day of. There was a miscommunication that he was providing the payment as opposed to his son providing the payment. So that's what his excuse was. His max on his withdrawal for his debit card was $500.
Yep.
And I think he owed us 1,200 or 13 or something like
Yep.
that. So anyway, and this is the groom side, because sometimes we get traditional weddings where the groom side pays for the bar. So bride side ended up having to go in there safe in their house, grab cash and pay, and then Annie up with Pete, you know, within the week or whatever they did. But long story short, that was a nightmare of a night, for lack of better words. So
Yep.
Did Pete get all wasted?
fucking Pete, yes, he did.
Yeah.
Of course.
And
And I assume belligerent.
very. And
Yeah.
what's tough is the groom really didn't have a relationship with Pete. So I kind of felt bad for the guy in the end, but at the time I was like, man, fucking Pete.
And so okay, so somebody else had to. Now, and then there was a second one. Have you? I mean, the second one worked out kind of the same then. Somebody else ponied up the money. Have you ever packed your shit and gone home? That's the question I'm getting to.
We have not.
Not yet.
We have threatened. We have
Oh, yeah.
threatened, hey, if we don't give payment by 8 p.m., because it's supposed to be upon arrival.
Yep.
For those reasons, you know, but if we don't get payment by 8 p.m., we're gonna head out. And then people all of a sudden magically come up with the money or magically go to the bank and come back. It's like, listen, we were fucking serious about our payment and very serious. And you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. And that's the other reason why we don't wait till the end of the night to get paid. Because again, people are trash, like fucking Pete.
Like fucking-
And and it just doesn't go well. I count a different number, he counts a different number. He's upset the next day because he was drunk, so he doesn't remember, you know, like it just so pay me when I arrive. I'm being nice by not making you pay ahead of time like all the other wedding vendors do.
Yep.
And we do it that way too, so we're not holding on to people's cash for them. So we're not liable if anything gets lost, you know.
Sure.
So
And a lot of this became policy for us throughout COVID. We had brides calling us the week of saying, hey, we're canceling our wedding. And we're like, well, I'm sorry, but you still owe us full amounts. Like you can't just back out the week of. We've already put in orders. Everything's being shipped to our liquor store. Like you can't just do that. And people got very upset about that, but that's why we signed contracts. And so that's just something that we can fall back on is we've spent a lot of work over the last couple of years on perfecting our contract and making sure that it holds legal basis and then sticking to that as well.
So if they don't pay you until it's time to come and they try to cancel a week ahead of time, now they pay you for all of the liquor that you bought?
they're supposed to, yep. So
Yes.
per our contract, it reads that they have to cancel 30 days out, 30 days prior to the wedding if they have no intention of our services. I'm booking our bartenders 30 days out. So for that reason, that's why I have that specific date. And then if we are providing the alcohol, they must pay the contract and the alcohol tab in full because the party store does have it on order. So not saying that they can't restock or resend or do anything with that, but I mean, it really locks people in those last 30 days. And I know that there's, I mean, catering, I think is 90 days. Most catering contracts are 90 days, but we went 30 because of our timeline and how we schedule.
Sure. And so now, if the event doesn't happen, I mean, what do you just bring them their liquor? Here you have a massive amount of it just sitting at home. Like, what do you
Yeah.
have you guys? I mean, so did the wedding end up happening? You said the lady called you a week ahead of time. Like, how did that end up working itself out?
So what's unfortunate is our employees are pretty understanding. And so what I ended up doing was at that time, we did not have it written into the contract that they still owed. So I called our bartenders, canceled. Hey, I'm really sorry. And then I was able to send our bartenders 50% payment because they're depending on that money too.
Sure.
And then we just ate the bullet on it. So
Okay. And then, so now you kind of mentioned a couple times, so you have a liquor store, you have liquor stores, that you make an order with. How does that work? And why do you do it that way versus say go to Costco?
yeah, great question. So a little bit into the legality of everything in Michigan. So state of Michigan is very strict state in regards to liquor liability. If we wanted to buy and sell liquor ourselves, we would need a liquor license. We do not have one because we do not need one. We are not a liquor store and we are not a liquor provider. If we bought alcohol from Costco and sold it to our customers, thank you, we would then be in violation of state of Michigan liquor law. Since we have a let me try to explain this the right way without fumbling. Since we have just a non-verbal agreement with a local liquor store, they are able to provide it at Michigan liquor minimums. We would get a list of what the bride and groom want. We would go there and then we pay with the bride and groom's funds at that point. So they are purchasing the liquor directly from the party store.
Okay.
And so we have a partnership with Party World on Alpine. All of our orders that we put in, it goes through them. We tell anyone who's bringing their own alcohol to go through them as well when they can. And it's just been working out really well. We send our details to them. They formulate how much we need. Sometimes there's a little back and forth on saying, hey, vodka's been killing it lately. Let's get a couple more cases of that or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, keeping that with that one party store keeps it pretty easy for us to keep things organized.
So I want to kind of take it and I'm assuming you've changed and it sounds like you kind of go back and forth, but all right. So you have an event for 100 people. How do you know how much to bring?
Yeah, so a lot of it's looking back at previous events with 100 people with similar menus. It's weird. In the last couple years, vodka's been heavy. Seltzers have been heavy compared to like cider. We don't see cider much at any weddings. So we look at, again, previous events to grab those specific amounts at. Let me just pull a contract a second in front of me. I'm just looking at these ones. I'm wondering what I can give you for an example.
So Party World, when we first started out, they have experience with working with weddings. And so they've had these numbers on the books for a long time and saying, hey, you got 100 people, this is how many kegs you need, this is how much vodka, all that stuff. But now that we've been into it for 7 years, we're able to come up with numbers for people and kind of formulate it like that. And Karen's got her contract now.
So I just pulled up this one, July 29th event in Holland for us for a family friend.
Rod and Gun Club?
They are actually no, private residence.
Private
So
residence, located where?
Nick, look at me now. I'm gonna get myself some free alcohol, baby.
Oh,
She said
I love
family. I thought we were family now.
it. Absolutely. Absolutely. You would be the best party crasher ever. You need to do that.
He probably would be.
29th, I think I'm available too. 9 days after my birthday. Y'all threw me a party?
All right, so we got 75 people. I'm just gonna hold this up so you kind of see it, but this is my detail sheet that I sit down and I talk with every bride and groom.
Okay.
Basically on the detail sheet, it talks about how many guests, what time we're showing up, what time last call is, if we're serving during dinner, how many bartenders we're bringing. And then it talks about menu. So liquor, we got 4 to 6 half gallons of tequila because they're doing a signature cocktail, signature margarita, tequila, marg mix, lime juice, and a lime. 6 to 8 vodka half gallons, 4 to 5 whiskey, 2 to 3 Aperol. They're doing an Aperol spritzer thing.
Oh, gross.
I know that's
Hey,
Brett's
oh
least
my
favorite too.
I can't even drink one sip of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Say.
And so like really realistically, okay, so we got 75 people. I'm trying to get to 5 times the amount of guests in liquor drinks. Okay. So if I take my 75 and I say I want to get 5 times that in all my liquor drinks, that's what number I'm giving them for half gallons. And typically we give them a half gallon number because they can divide it out into fifths or whatever they want to. Then they're doing 2 beers, Coors Light and Oberon. They got kegs, so they're just going to do 1 keg of Coors Light and a quarter barrel of Oberon. So quarter barrel is going to be 75 beers, half keg is going to be 150. So that'll be what, 225 in beer, which is plenty. Then they're doing bottled wine. They got a white and a red. They're doing some seltzer cans. They're doing a champagne toast for everyone, Prosecco. Then they got Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, Mountain Dew, cran soda, lime juice, Marg Mix, lemonade. So they have quite a big menu.
Sure.
But they're providing everything. I'm just showing up and serving. But yeah, that's kind of.
So they're providing when you say they're providing everything, I guess what does that really mean? I don't know how else to ask the question. Are they going to this store, picking it up, bringing it to their house, dropping it off, or are they just actually paying for it like ahead of time?
Great question. They are physically going to get it and putting it behind the bar at the event, and then when I show up, everything is there, and I organize it how I need it and start serving.
Okay, perfect.
So for an event like this, we call it our bucket of shit. But we bring an ice bucket with us. It's got our bottle openers. It's got our wine openers. It's got our tip jar,
Towels,
beer
bar
mugs, everything that we need to physically serve, we bring with us. But then in terms of cups and ice and cases of water and all the alcohol, they have to supply all of that. So
Okay.
for us, we view it as kind of an all or nothing, although we're bringing just the essentials we need to serve.
You're bringing the tools. Yep.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yep.
And so it's I find that most people don't understand that kegs can't just get thrown around and then set and tap it right away. But you'd be surprised how many people don't know this.
It's
What
so
people
funny.
Do you know?
All college dumbass kids that
Well,
think
college
Yeah,
dumbass
that
kids don't know
think
anything.
you have to pump every time you get a drink, and it's like how fucking stupid are you? Okay, like
Well, they're just starting college.
well,
They're dumb.
let's say even I know 28-year-olds that still think that you have to walk up to the keg and pump it every single time, and I'm like, stop foaming my fucking beer.
Those people still exist as adults.
They
don't
do.
worry.
Oh, of
They do.
course, right? They watched it on a movie because that's what everybody like. It gives it that right that feeling in the movie that this is what you're supposed to do. Just stop. Like you're
Yeah, so I'm talking to Bride for this weekend from last night. We do all of our confirmation calls either the Sunday or Monday before the wedding. So I'm talking to Bride, and she goes, "Okay, we're picking up the kegs at 9 a.m. I would assume we put them on ice and then we tap them as soon as we get to our residence." And I'm like, "Nope, you're actually going to leave them because we like them to settle for at least 3 to 4 hours before they're tapped, and then obviously we'll tap them when we get there." And she like didn't understand why, and I was like, "Listen, they're all shook up. It's just basic, you would think, math. I'm not gonna throw a can of Bud Light across the ground and then go open it right away."
Yeah.
But people don't think of that.
Say people don't think that a keg is literally just a massive
Yeah, it's a
can,
huge can.
right? That's
Right.
all.
Yeah.
It's all. But people don't think that way, right? Because they're just so used to this pour, and boom, there it goes. And no, if you watch, the bartender still pours out the first like 4 fucking pitchers.
Yep.
Right.
Just to foam.
Yeah, the
Uh-huh.
kegs are the last thing that we tap when we get to a wedding if we're bringing it, because they can at least sit an hour before we tap them, or before we can, we don't want
Of course.
foamy beer either.
Yeah.
So.
Now, so they're gonna. Do you guys bring? It's not ambiance. What's the word? Do you have a bar? Let's say like on the table, or is that the stuff that like they supply as well, right? So do you actually have? So if you go and do this in the middle of a field, do you guys have a bar, or that you bring?
Great question. Yep. So
We
we
do.
have a few rentable items.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So we have 2 bars that we can bring. Right now, we've only ever done one of the bars. One of them is pretty brand new that we got, and it's pretty simple. We've got an 8-foot table, and then this wooden bar that we actually bought from a past customer. We loved it so much. You just sit right on top of that 8-foot table, and it gives it that high rise and allows us to have a shelf underneath. And then we just put linens on the top of it to make it look all fancy and nice and not beat to crap like it actually is. But most of the wedding venues we go to, they already have bars in them. If we rent our bar out 3 times a year, I think that's maybe setting a record for us. We just don't rent it out that often. We have it if we ever need it. But our top 3 venues, they have multiple bars at that we can serve out of. So we give the bride and groom choices of where they want us to serve at, and then we go with that.
Yeah. You had kind of quickly said a little word that I love. You say upsell, right? So you have an add-on. There you go. Do you have things that you can add on, upsell for more money? Is the bar
Right.
is the bar free, or does it cost money? And do you have any other things like that?
Yeah, so basically we don't have much extra equipment. Brett is not a fan of me filling the barn with extra equipment that we won't use or need. We have rentable keg coolers. These keg coolers, you pour a bag of ice on one bag of ice on a keg, 122-pound bag, and it'll last all day in the blazing heat, and it'll keep the keg cold enough to where people can actually enjoy the beer. So we have rentable keg coolers. We have, those are all wrapped in our business everything, which is great. We have rentable large coolers. The large coolers are like those ones that you see at Sam's Club. They're like huge, and they hold over 150 pounds of ice. They're pretty big. If people want to rent those are rentable. And then we have the add-ons. If you'd like to rent the bar, there's 2 different bar options: a more simple bar and then a more fancy bar, if you will. And then I don't think we're going to get into renting much equipment, but we do have some champagne glasses that I am slowly getting rid of and trickling out. So
If
just
you
like
guys are looking for champagne glasses, we're selling them.
he's trying to get rid of all my
Keep
stuff
that
in
in
the barn,
mind.
which is totally good. But yeah, I was thinking for a while there that I wanted to do rentable glassware, but you think about cleaning all the rentable glassware in my own kitchen at home is not fun or feasible. So we decided I bought them and then decided not to. So it's all right.
I mean, who would want to bring shit home from their business and clean it in their house? Oh wait, my wife does that.
It's like all the time.
Yeah.
She's never getting a new washer or dryer because she washes the fucking jumpsuits in our washer and dryer, and we try to get all the glass out.
Try.
But every time you turn the dryer on now, you hear glass flying around in the fucking thing. Irritating as hell to me. I'm going to ask this question because I know the answer, and I like asking questions I know the answer to. So you guys have quit your full-time jobs, and this is what you do full-time, right?
Congrats.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I wish.
not.
So you're
No,
still
we
working
both-
people while you do this.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. So the nice thing about this job is it takes up a lot of nights and weekends, which allows us to keep with our full-time jobs. We're both in education. Karen's in special education. I'm in history. Both working at the middle school level. So we both have that job throughout the week that we do throughout the year. And then nice for us, we get summers off, and that's usually our busy time. Between like June and about September, that's usually our busiest times, and allows us to still keep making money and still keep busy and keep going.
Well, and I know, with both of you both coach as well.
Yes,
So you
absolutely.
coach, you work at school, you do this, you have a baby,
Yep.
soon to have another one.
Yep.
Where do you find time?
Time for what?
Right.
Get about 10 minutes to watch TV every night. I'm just kidding. It's got to be purposeful for us to set time for ourselves, and we definitely try and do that very often. There's certain weeks out of the year that we purposely say we are not accepting any weddings. Like our anniversary every year, we've never accepted a wedding on that weekend, just because we know that it's important for us to have time for us and not be super, super busy. And fortunate for us, even though maybe we want it to be more busy, the winter time is kind of a slow time for us. Neither one of us are coaching. We're both just working our regular jobs. Very little bartending going on. We have our gig with Grand Valley that we work at all of their home football and basketball games. So we have that going on. But that's just kind of steady for us.
So we have a kind of a
Nice.
creative idea, hopefully to fill the void this winter, because this winter poses a hard, I don't know how to say it, but a hardship probably for us without me working, baby coming. So I've come up with a few creative ideas potentially for this winter, doing bourbon tasting, doing tequila tastings, private in-home tastings where we provide everything and it's X amount per person. So we decided maybe to potentially bring that creativity and do something a little bit different to fill the time over the winter, during the weekdays, so we can still have weekends to hang out and enjoy our winter a little bit. But so we're finding new and creative ways to try to fill our dead time of the year over the winter. But yeah.
So,
Should be
because
fun.
I'm always thinking, let me ask this question. Have you ever hooked up with some of these people that sell shit like Pampered Chef or Pure Romance or any of that stuff and said, hey, we could add something to what you're doing there with, because you got a captive audience. We could also bring tequila tasting to this, because I'm not going to any of that shit. But if my wife goes,
Unless
hey, honey,
there's
if you come
alcohol.
with me, there's also tequila tasting. And I'd be like, all right, I can come to that.
Valid point.
Yeah,
Valid point.
I haven't thought about that, but yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. We're just getting into the whole tasting thing. We've only had one bourbon tasting so far. It went good. Obviously it took me a little bit of research and learning more about the bourbons than what I had already known. We've done tours down in Kentucky, and I obviously like drinking free booze, so why not?
By the way, that's a write-off for research too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Of course it is.
yeah.
gonna say.
Gotta go buy the bottle of the Blanton so I can know what it tastes like before I have somebody else drink it.
I mean,
True,
I know
true
there's-
words have never been
yeah.
said.
I know there's a lot of alcoholics in the Baldwin area that drink whiskey at Yost's place all summer long. You're looking for people to test shit on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we go. Little outside tasting. That'd be
Yeah.
fun. Mm-hmm. That's funny.
So with your business growing, are you guys doing any networking events? Are you do you have like a mastermind group that you're part of, or is just all natural growth off the top of your head?
So right now it's mostly natural growth. We haven't really done any networking, only because I don't know that I can handle any more events that come in. We do say no to about 50% of people that reach out.
No shit.
And I we have maybe 5 to 10 people that will contact us per week on events. Most of the time we're already booked. Right now we're looking into early 2024 booking that. We're pretty much booked up for 2023 at this point for weddings. For other events during the week, it's totally different. If somebody needs us on a random Thursday, we're in, but we try to make it work as much as we can. So
we know that we obviously want as much work as we can possibly get, but 2021 really showed us that taking too much on can be a little bit too much, with a lot of people rescheduling their weddings after COVID. We were stretched pretty thin. We expected a lot out of our employees that year, and we just kind of not necessarily limited ourselves, but kind of set limits for our own mindset and our own safekeeping.
So really our limits per date are 3 weddings per date or 3 events per date maximum.
And our scheduler right here keeps a strict hold on that.
And then we only accept 1 wedding that we provide the alcohol to, because we only have a truck and a trailer. There's a few days throughout the year that, with us knowing some people, there's a few times where I stretch it to 4 or 5 or 6 events per date.
Jeez.
But it's hard. I'm a yes person and Brett's a realist, so finding that middle ground between the both of us is tough sometimes. But
So I mean, it's something I love to do. So if you need an employee, just let me know.
You're
It's
in.
perpetually retired.
Hey, I'm retired. It's great. And but that brings me to my next great questions. As your employee that I now just got a job offer of, can I drink on the job?
great
Number
question.
2,
So
do I have to wear a specific uniform, or can I come in my kilt and a t-shirt?
I would have to say, so I just served 3 events this past week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. At every event, at least 2 people per event have asked me if we're allowed to drink behind the bar. We set it upon ourselves to kind of hold that upper level and keep that right mindset, knowing that there could be an incidents where we may need to cut somebody off or keep the right train of thought and eventually drive home at the end of the night. And so we tell ourselves and we tell our employees that they're not allowed to drink throughout the night. Obviously, you know, you have friends that get married that you really want to drink with, and you know, sometimes you think about stretching it, but just kind of sticking to it, and it's worked out really well. We don't really have any employees who have issues with that. They all know that they're there for business, and the pleasure comes from spending that money that they make.
You know, if it's something like, hey, there's a peach bush light at this wedding, I really want to try it. You know, we'll ask to take a can home with us, and then at the end of the night, we'll have wine down time here. Sometimes wine down time ends at 4 a.m. Sometimes it ends at 2.
Yeah.
But everyone needs their time after the wedding to just kind of decompress, and that's how we handle that. Everyone comes back here, brings their buckets, brings their money. We count tips. We have competitions for gift cards for our employees and most tips for the night, stuff like that, which is fun.
It's awesome.
But yeah, to answer your question directly, we don't drink on the job and we don't allow our employees to do that.
Okay.
In terms of like apparel and uniform, we've got polos for everyone that has our logo on it. It's a requirement from us that everyone wears those at events. Sometimes we have events that are a little bit more laid back and we're allowed to wear our other merchandise like what I have on right now. We have visors and we have hats just like this one that we allow our employees to wear. A lot of times you're out in the sweat and heat, and sometimes having a hat to hold back your hair is pretty nice. And then jeans or shorts is usually a custom. And then the key thing that we've found throughout the years is wear tennis shoes.
Yeah.
We've worn dress shoes, we've worn
Boots, cowboy boots for 3 years.
and gosh, I will never go away from wearing my tennis shoes to those weddings. You stand for hours and hours and hours, and it's worth it at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So you would have to wear a specific uniform, but we would probably allow you to wear your kilt, Nick. We
I
would
mean, I'm
probably allow it.
all about that. So then, you know, I'd like to start with like a 3-hour one because I don't know if I can watch everybody else drink for 7 hours
Right.
while I'm
right.
not allowed to drink. So you know, if we could work that out to do the smaller ones, or if I'm working a 7-hour shift, I'm gonna take a couple breaks, and then during my break time, I'm gonna drink. So
Obviously.
you know, I like the fact that you guys aren't allowed to drink. You tell your employees because you know I know myself, right? When I drink or when I start drinking, that's the end of my working, right?
Yes.
Because once I drink, I don't want to stop drinking, right? Your wind down time is exactly what I do, right? Hey, I'm done for the day. I'm officially done. I can crack some beers and you know, but otherwise I'm never gonna load the stuff that's supposed to get loaded up because I'm gonna be sitting there just shooting the shit and drinking. So
Right.
you know, and everybody else is different. So you don't want to, you know, if your employee, hey, one can handle their alcohol and the other one can't, then you know, then it's not fair to the one who's doing that. So
Right.
do your employees get to keep all their tips?
They do. Yep. 100% of the tips that they make, they get to keep. We also pay them a flat rate for every time of service because sometimes you have some pretty stingy people out there. So we have a flat rate that we pay every employee for every event that they serve. And then on top of that, they keep 100% of the tips that they make.
Okay. And does the flat rate change depending on the hours? Because you guys said you do $300 whether it's 3 or 7 hours. So
Correct.
So
and
with Grand Valley, we have a different event type with them where their service is like 2 hours. So
okay.
they have a different type of pricing in my mind than like a wedding, because a wedding you're typically there for a minimum of 4 to 5 and then the most of 7. So I guess with that, Grand Valley is kind of an exception, but yeah.
Besides that, yeah, every other event, it's just that same flat rate, no matter if
Okay.
you're serving a wedding, a birthday party, a grad party, whatever it may be, you all get the same.
I want to
Okay.
pull these contracts from this past week in a second and just kind of walk through that. So there's 4 of them. Hold on, can you hear me that sec? There's 4 events that we did on Saturday. We had a tip competition. Winner of most tips got a gift card I'm just pulling those and walking you through that a
It was
second.
rigged. It was rigged.
Say,
That means Brett did not win.
say some. No, are you guys still? I mean, we talked about how you've done events. Are you guys still pouring yourselves, or are you trying to send your employees out?
No, we still pour. We are in our mind, we're the first call in terms of our employees. We're the first ones if we can't make it work between the two of us, or one of us stays behind with our kid, or if we have more than one event, then we have employees that we know their availability. We have family members or friends that we know that they're working this weekend or that they're not working the next weekend. And but yeah, we still pour, and I think that it'd be something fun to do throughout the most of our time in existence with this company, is keep pouring and not necessarily just sit back on it.
So story time
So-
before Karen jumps into this.
Yeah.
We're winning districts.
Mhm.
And I don't remember the exact time, but Karen's like, I got a drop dead date of 4:30 because I have to be in Coopersville at a wedding at 5. So I have a 4:30 drop dead date.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to go into the bottom of the 6th. And we're home team. And it's like 4. And now we're in the top of the 7th. And it's 4:30.
Oops.
And she's getting ready to go out to third base, and she goes, listen, or first base. She goes, listen, if we don't score, I gotta go. I'm like, I heard that before. You're still here. And she goes, I'm just telling you, if we don't score, I gotta go. So we score, we win.
Yeah.
She stayed around for probably 15 minutes to do pictures and stuff.
Oh, geez.
So she basically rolled in the last possible second. So yeah, they still do it.
Yeah. Way
So
to
I
go.
get to the wedding. They're having the wedding down the hill at this farm. I drop trow in the parking lot and change into my uniform in the parking lot. Change my shoes, change my socks. Walk right up to the wedding.
Yep.
Right
Oh,
on time.
Right on time.
you
right, so
made it.
4
That's all that
events in-
matters.
Four events in one day. First wedding 190 each. Second wedding 210 each. Brett's wedding 383 each. And my wedding 409 each in tips.
Oh, sounds like you lost, Brett.
I know.
He's a
Oh.
sore loser.
It was horseshit.
I mean,
I
wait,
served
so,
the
Aren't
most
we all sore
alcohol.
losers?
so your wedding, you made the most, and you killed it. So when you say each of these events had at least 2 people, then
So yes, actually all of our events this weekend, minimum of 2. There's one event with 3 bartenders.
Mhm.
okay. And is it total each, or was it total
Total
all-
each.
Okay, so
Mhm.
So our total would have been 818.
man.
Yep.
And it sounds like I might actually have a job if I can make that kind of money. Flat rate plus $200 in tips a night. Shit, I'm in. And I get to wear my kilt. I don't want to spill all over my kilt. This is gonna be great. When do I start? I'm busy this weekend.
You're busy every weekend. What the hell are you
I'm
talking
not
about?
busy every weekend. Okay, and then no, you said you guys have every mixer. What are the events that you love to do the most, and what's the ones you hate doing? And you don't have to call them out, but
Right.
Okay.
It's more work to bring the booze and to bring the alcohol for weddings. But honestly, I prefer that. I know what's going to be there. If I show up to a wedding and I just tell them, hey, you're supposed to bring this many cups, and they bring half that amount, then I look like the bad guy. So I know that if I'm bringing whatever needs to happen, I can confirm that. And if not, if I'm low on my numbers, then it's my fault. I can own up to that. So those are obviously my favorite, is when I can bring everything in. It seems weird to have the control over it, but when I have more control over it and can bring whatever I want to, those are the ones I enjoy the most. Family and friends weddings that we've served in the past, those have been a great time. To know everyone who comes up to the bar and to know their drinks before they even get in line, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of a lot of friends and a lot of people we've met throughout the years that, they get in line and they could be 10 people deep. And I know that guy wants a whiskey and Coke. I'm going to pour that, sit off to the side and tell him his drink is right here.
Yeah.
Just because I know those people and I like that. The events we don't like are the last minute calls. And in fact, in the last probably year and a half, 2 years, anyone who calls within 2 months of trying to book, generally we're telling them no. Just because when they're last minute individuals and they're not prepared, generally it ends in a bad night for us. And just bad situations or just unorganized messes when we show up there.
Sure. I say, so you're saying last minute is 2 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're booking I would say 6 months to a year out in almost all of our instances.
And what's the most I can book out?
Depends on if you want us for a corporate or a wedding. Like,
Just a birthday party. I'll be
yeah.
40 in 6 years. So
perfect. So book us now.
Yep. Now, otherwise we're gonna book up.
If they're at your birthday party, I'm coming.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
You're going either way. You're gonna be.
I've never been to one of Nick's birthdays.
Oh, they're a blast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate the invite.
You've been invited to all of them. You guys are just busy all the time.
Bullshit.
Every time. Yeah. So now, gosh, 2 months is last minute. No, okay. You had mentioned, hey, they don't bring enough cups, and then you said, hey, before that, they have to go get them. Now, let's say you didn't bring enough cups, or something didn't get packed by accident.
Yep.
You're the only bartender at this place. What do you do?
So if I'm ever the only bartender there, I never leave behind the bar. It's never me leaving those materials, those resources available to anyone who wants to come up, because people are greedy and they just see open bottles and they say, I'm snatching that. And so if I'm ever working by myself and I don't bring enough, that's on me. I own up to it. I go to somebody else who's trustworthy. Generally, it's a master or mistress. And I say, hey, I'm sorry. Here's what I need. If you're willing to go out and get it, please do. But luckily for us, there's not a lot of events that we serve where there's just one bartender. And so, this past weekend, we had an event at Whippoorwill Farms, one of our favorite venues to go to, and they were hitting the margaritas hard. We went through 2 cases of margarita mix in 2 hours. It seemed like everyone who came up wanted a margarita. Well, we got to dinner and we had 1/2 gallon left. And I said, I didn't get enough. I'm going back to the store. Got 2 more cases, came back. Now I was fortunate able to do that because there was one of our other employees working with us there. But if it doesn't happen that way, I try and get more leading up to it, to load up and stock up before I get there. But if not, then just kind of works out the way it does, and we just got to roll with it.
Okay. And they say, you can always tell people that you're out, right? When it comes to like, hey, we're out of this drink. But
I've run into that several times.
When you have cups, right, and you run out of cups, I mean, then you're just screwed. You can't serve anybody anything.
Here, I can pour this drink directly in your mouth, and that's all I can do.
I mean, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Though. Like now you're threatening me with a good time.
Right.
And say, so no real horror experiences except for the guy who didn't want to pay you.
Yeah, fuck you, Pete.
Fucking Pete, man.
Pete.
Not really.
Do you guys play counselor with people a lot?
Oh my gosh. All the time. I'm a relationship counselor. I don't know. I hook people up together. I hooked up a guy from the Air Force this past weekend with a girl, and oh gosh.
We did for the first 5 or so years. I would say not much anymore, but we did have a competition who could have the best story or best thing that happened at your event. And for the running amount of time, it was at the event that you went to, Nick.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a company event that him and his employees are invited to, and then they can invite their family and friends, and then they can invite their family and friends, whatever, right? So I forget who the name of the employee was, but it was X amount or X person. And they brought their spouse with them. Their spouse was wearing a very short dress.
I do
And
remember that year.
I convinced her to dance on our bar at her husband's work event.
Oh,
He was in the food line, and I think his jaw hit the ground like within a split second of him turning around. Oh my god!
So anyway, we've
Everyone's sitting there cheering her on, and he is
get
just beat red.
down now is what he said. I will never forget that. Get down now.
Oh.
Oh, so we've had some fun moments. We do have an after event survey that all of our employees take. One survey per event. And in that survey they could put a story or something that happened. And then at our annual Christmas party, to thank of all of our employees for a great year, we talk about, just the fun stories, and there's a lot of funny stuff that happens. There really is. So
I can't wait to come work for you guys. I get a Christmas party too, and wow,
free booze,
Yep, free booze.
Oh, that was the other question I was going to ask. So you supply it all. So now, do you take home the leftover stuff? I mean, because I assume when you're supplying it, you're responsible for the keg, so you have to take that back because it's your deposit that's on it. And then the non-open bottles. I mean, do you save it? Do you drink it? Do you resell it? Because you can't resell, right? Because I mean, you're not allowed to.
Correct.
Good question. So the way that we get around that is we have a open check and an open tab with the liquor store that we work with. So we order everything we need. We return anything or give it back unopened to the party store. Anything opened goes with the guest for the wedding
Because they paid.
they paid for it.
Yep.
So we don't typically take any alcohol unless it's offered to us as a tip or as a favor, or here, try this, or
Sure.
What's weird is in the last couple years with all the different seltzers is there's been so many different seltzers to try that's been the going thing. Hey, I'm going to grab a can of this. Is that okay with you before I take off? And everyone says, yes, go ahead,
Sure.
But it's always an ask first since they purchased it. So
Man, so do I have to fill out like a W-9? Am I a full-time employee? Like part-time? Is it 1099? Like what am I as an employee to you guys?
You got to go through the most rigorous interview process with her.
I already was offered the position. She already said I'm there, but like I just gotta figure out how I'm getting paid as a documented employee. And when is our Christmas party?
I'm going to give you a specific date and a specific time and just not the address.
Right, you already hear this, right? It's like our Christmas party. I'm already part of this team. This
Already there.
This is gonna be great.
this is how Nick works his way into shit.
Yes,
I love it.
all the time. Now you have you're offering pops and waters and things for people. Do you check? So because it just kind of brought me up to like the kids idea, right? So like, do you have two separate booths? Like, hey, one is specifically for like kids. Are you serving these cans out of buckets? Are you pouring it out of bottles? And then do you guys check IDs?
Absolutely. So it is. We've done multiple bars in the past. It's never fun because you come into those instances where I cut off somebody. Okay, that person goes to Karen, and Karen has no idea quite yet that he's been cut off and gets served another drink, or whatever it may be. So we try and contain ourselves to just one bar. Everyone who wants a drink comes to see us.
Even people who non-alcoholic, we serve non-alcoholic too.
Sometimes we have like water stations positioned throughout the place. So if you need to grab a quick water, go ahead. But for the most part, everyone comes to see us that needs a drink, and we serve it to them. In terms of IDing everyone, if they look under 40, we ID them, which is, I say this as sarcastic as possible. The most insulting thing you could ever ask to a 20-some-year-old female is, can I see your ID at a wedding? And you wouldn't believe the amount of responses we get that are negative, of people saying, you mean I need to have an ID to be able to legally drink at your bar? Absolutely. And
The one I did was the same way, right? And it was like,
yep.
hey, I have to ask your ID. Well, why? I'm at his wedding. We're friends. And I was like, I know him and I don't like him. I'm just doing this for the money. And number
Mhm.
two, like you look like you're 16. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna
Oh,
lie
yeah.
to you, right? Like,
Even if they look like they're 25, that doesn't mean anything.
yeah, I was saying I idea, and I'm really good with faces. So again, I don't ask your ID a million times, right?
Are you
And-
interviewing
Right.
right now, Nick?
Yeah, I actually do believe so. I don't need to interview. You already offered me this position. You just haven't told me where I start and when I start, okay? And it's gonna take a while for you guys to go get a shirt made that's big enough to fit this big body because I assume you don't have my size polo in stock, okay? I know that it's gonna take time for you guys to get your shit together.
He likes it extra tall, just so you know.
I
'cause
do.
He pisses and moans that I don't buy extra tall for
That's
Bucks
funny.
and Brews.
Yeah.
I get that. I like extra tall shirts
He goes,
too.
I gotta wear a bigger fucking shirt just because you don't get extra tall. I'm like, dude, you should be happy I can get extra larges.
So,
Right.
Um,
So
No.
day the district day that I dropped Trout in the parking lot to get up to the wedding in time. I get all the way up there and the bride and groom are 21 and a half.
oh yeah.
So at that point I already knew that we were gonna have people that were on the border and a lot of underage-ish age people. I saw 4 fake IDs that night.
Nice.
And I was like, Judas Maud, like, and 2 of them, oh, we're from Canada. Yeah, bullshit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, do you teach your employees to look for fake IDs? Do you guys have training? Sorry, do you have training and things that you go through on a constant with that?
Yeah, so we actually have tips training. It is a certification training that, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure this doesn't vibrate anymore. Everyone's texting me right now. Come on, guys.
We're getting dizzy.
I was gonna say, whoa.
Oh, God.
Is that like a fake boob implant that you're putting this thing
Yeah,
on?
it looks like
What is,
that.
what is
Listen,
going
we have
on here?
kids, so it's a bib.
daughter's
It's our
rubber band.
daughter's bib. That's funny. Sorry.
Jeez Louise.
Anyway, so we have tips training. At tips training, you are trained. It's a class you have to take every other year. You are trained on how to recognize a fake ID. You are trained on when to cut somebody off and what the Michigan liquor laws are. So that training really goes over that. And then our typical second request on an ID is, hey, do you have an additional piece that says an additional piece of ID that says your name on it that we can look at too? Like that's typically our second question to people. So
Your like credit card or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
School
Um,
ID, whatever, maybe.
And so all your employees have to do that as well.
They do.
correct. Yep, required. Mhm.
Is
No
there
question.
is there any other training that has to go on, or is it just this tips thing every 2 years?
So tips, and then we keep on saying that we're gonna do a yearly training. We honestly haven't. Brett and I take turns and just take each employee at least once per year and just kind of work with them and remind them of things at an event. But I would like to get into a yearly training type thing where we just remind our employees not to put dirty dishes back in the clean bag, things like that. Like that stuff drives me nuts because then I have to clean everything in the bag.
And when we were first starting out, there was a few of our employees who were like, I've seen kegs get tapped. I've drank out of kegs. I've pumped them, but I've never actually tapped one.
Sure.
And so just walking them through how to tap a keg and something simple like that. And we had an incident a couple years ago with people getting upset with us grabbing the lid of a cup to hand it to them.
Like I'm handing you your drink like this,
Yep.
and people are getting mad.
Or even having
As opposed to-
your hands even close to the lid. And so a lot of times that's just communicated out with our employees either in person or through text or however we communicate and say, hey, just gonna stress this in the future, that when we're serving drinks, try to keep your hands away from the lid. It's just for our safety reasons. And with COVID, that became kind of a namesake.
When you're up in Sparta serving, no one gives a shit.
That's a
But
fact.
when you're in Spring Lake, Grand Haven, everyone cares where you're touching their drink. Everyone cares that you're offering a straw, that you're putting the ice scoop outside of the ice that you're serving people. Because if I'm touching the ice scoop, those germs from my hand are going on that ice. Just stupid, silly things like that. So it's crazy.
My pen, of course, isn't working. All right, so how to handle? Are you guys texting each other? Because everybody's phone's just going crazy.
We're not.
so how to handle a bad review like that? So if somebody was complaining, how do you teach or what do you tell your employees to do? How do you guys handle bad reviews?
So on the spot, I think we're pretty professional about it. Real, I mean, David and I, we've gone back and forth about how they get a shitty review and how it sucks and how it affects his business. So, we're 5 out of 5, but we don't have very many reviews. At the end of the year, I reach out to all of our people and just say, hey, if you care enough to leave us a review for this year, that'd be great. And just kind of remind them, hey, it's out there. But we haven't had a bad physical review. It's all been either via messenger or in person at the event. Luckily, we have typically a lead at every event, so that lead person will take on the complaint and just handle it and then let us know via survey communication what happened, and then we can follow up at that point. But
A lot of times those incidents we try and take on head on because we know the ins and outs of our business. But in the last couple of years, we've been kind of asking our employees to take on that too, knowing that they're eventually going to have to be either by themselves or without us. And just taking on those incidences and saying, hey, the bride just passed out from drinking moonshine that she brought in that she wasn't allowed to. How are you going to deal with that? Go deal with it. And obviously being there for a crutch for them if they need it because it's happening in the moment, but letting them experience it is pretty big, and they use that and learn from it from then on.
you know, it's kind of interesting though, when I think back to like a specific event, there's only one that comes to mind, and it was another vendor that put us on a spot at a wedding. And it was really tough to hear that from a vendor. Like, listen, dude, don't fucking crush my small business because you want to complain about where I'm putting my hand on your cup. You know, and in my, I mean, I feel like he didn't handle it the best way. He Facebook messaged us instead of talk to us about it at the event. When I felt like talking to us about it then would have been completely fine, but maybe he didn't feel that way, which is fine. But that was another vendor, which was really interesting. That a vendor would do that, as opposed to, you know, a customer. So
Sure. Say now, return customers. So like with weddings, it's not like people are getting married every year. So
We hope, maybe, you never know.
well, I mean, I know people that are batting 1,000 on their 7th one right now. So, but, how much are you seeing return customers and or people from the same wedding using you because they were at a wedding?
We see that a fair amount.
25% of the time, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our corporate events, we see them coming back to us regularly. We have several events with the same companies, just time and time again. Every time they need a bartender, they know who to call. And then a lot of the times, our business comes from family, friends, or people who show up to our weddings and go, "This was amazing. We love what you guys do, and you seem to be easy to work with. So we'd like to have you at our wedding."
We do have a lot of conversations at those events about like, hey, our card and our contact information at the bar. Like a lot of people, we put our business cards on the bar. They come up, they see, hey, who's Brett and Karen? Oh, well, that's us. Oh, nice to meet you guys. Well, we need a bartender. We're looking into a bartender, you know, for X date, and cool, give us a call. We'll figure it out, you know. So what's nice is a lot of that happens when we're at the event. And then they're pretty thorough about follow-up afterwards when they see a face to a name too, which is great.
No, Brett, you had mentioned something about moonshine and she's not allowed to have it. Why?
So anytime that we are serving, we have to serve 100% of every alcoholic beverage. And so anyone who wants to bring a cooler and camp out in the parking lot and drink that, or come up and get a 3/4 of the way filled Coke and then go get their fancy whiskey out of their bag or whatever. We have to serve everything. That's our liability, making sure that we're observing who's drinking what. And it's also Michigan law as well that we have to do that as well.
Yeah, Michigan liquor law is no homemade hooch. So Uncle Steve's got to leave his homemade hooch at home. We can't serve homemade wine. It's got to be bought and purchased from a liquor store or from a store in Michigan. In order for us to be able to serve it. So You know, we have had instances in the past where we've served like Yendling and stuff like that, but that's been an exception because we knew the people. But it has to be purchased from a liquor store in Michigan in order for us to be able to serve it. And if people are wanting people like their guests to take home like a bottle of wine at the end of the night for their whatever, their take home gift,
Yep.
then people can take that with them. They cannot drink it there. So
Okay.
No new glares for you.
That's some bullshit. So you'll serve what I tell you to serve. No. I
Drive
know-
your ass to Wisconsin right now.
I know you guys have to get going, so thank you so much for the interview. We've enjoyed having you. I'd love to have
Do
you
you
back
mean
on.
interviewing them or them interviewing you?
Both.
Both.
Thank you so much for my new job. Let me know when I start. I'm not joking about it. I really, I'm gonna come do an event or two.
Perfect.
Guys, before we get off, I'd like before we get off, no, I say before we stop doing this. Yeah, I say, look, somebody parked up on the other end. Tell us how people can find you, find out more about you, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Yeah, before I do that, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity for today. It's been really fun.
Yes.
It's really easy just to get on and talk with people that we've seen before and know so well, and just really appreciate you guys reaching out to us and letting us be a part of the show. So thank you.
Absolutely, our pleasure.
Again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I'm an in person, on the phone kind of person. So get me on the phone. I'll talk to you any day. So you can call me at 616-214-0488. We are on Facebook or Instagram. We do not have a website. tapafew@gmail.com is our email. So those 4 points of contact are what we use.
Great, and I'll make sure David gets that in the show notes because I don't do any part
You
of
know,
that.
Nick does none of that.
So,
Perfect.
You forgot
Hey,
something.
his
at the
only
beginning.
job was to bring beer, remember?
and I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah.
that. I just, it's funny because I'm so used to having. I just turned to go grab the beer to see who I'm thanking, and I don't have it.
Damn it.
So but we forgot it in the beginning. As always, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. I really enjoyed this episode. I hope to have you guys back on again here real soon. Thanks for no beers this week. Kind of awkward.
We'll be back next week. We're gonna try and get the timeshare guy on.
Yeah.
Do episode number 2 of timeshares. Do we like him or do we not?
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. The first one was pretty fun. Thanks again for joining us, you guys. Don't run away real quick after I hit stop here, but we will join everybody again next week.
You've dialed in.
To Bucks and Brews, you might hear something
You can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use.
smarts of these
Because
stuff.
they know the
And
brews.
they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, because shit's not funny.
And save yourself some
Beer money. Bucks.
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
brews.
and brews.
Bucks and brews.